The yearly theme for the Centers for Spiritual Living is living everyday wonder, which I love, because when we're living everyday wonder, sort of like that opening prayer, it means that we are living enlightened every day, every moment, in every situation, the laundry, the beekeeping, the concerts, the loss, the missing out of, all of it is living enlightened in every situation. It just simply means integrating spirit, mind, and body. And this week's title is The Body Remembers. Now, most of us are pretty familiar with that concept right now. Our bodies are intricately connected and responsive to our minds. We know that. They remember even the stories that we have pushed aside, that we have consciously forgotten. But there is a memory, there is an idea of all that we have been through, all that we have thought, all that we have seen and experienced. It is still in our body. And I often tell a story of how my mom, when I was a young child, always told me to put on sunscreen so that I wouldn't get skin cancer. Put on sunscreen so you don't get skin cancer. So I got in the habit of putting on sunscreen because that didn't exist when I was really young. And I always put on sunscreen so that I wouldn't get skin cancer. It was always right there. And eventually I would remember to put on sunscreen, but I forgot, so that I wouldn't get skin cancer. My mind had forgotten, but my body remembered. My subconscious remembered, even though I forgot. And I did, in fact, experience melanoma in my body and had surgery to remove it. So today we'll explore that spirit, mind, body connection, and how trauma or pain or things that we've left in the subconscious unexplored can still affect the body. We're also going to explore the methods for integrating spirit, mind, and body so that we can understand and release those sayings which no longer serve us. Deepak Chopra said, our body is the place that our memories and dreams call home for the time being. Isn't that awesome? Oh, I love that. But before we do all of that, I'd like to acknowledge that we are celebrating Father's Day. And I want to acknowledge and honor the memories that we all have of our fathers that were good, that were strong, that were powerful, that helped us grow and become the people we are right now. The memories of our fathers supporting us, growing us, nurturing us, and bringing us into this world, doing the best that they could. But with that, I think it's fair to also acknowledge that for many of us, there are some, negative emotions or memories or feelings, trauma even, that our fathers helped us experience in our lives. There were times where they weren't supportive, strong, or helpful. Yeah. But we take this moment right here and now to simply look upon a few sweet memories that we have of that person who brought us into the world and any other paternal figures who cared for us, supported us, coaches, stepfathers, just anyone who have helped us along the way and inspired that masculine quality, that masculine energy in each of us. And we take a moment to honor the fathers that you are here present and the fathers that are listening. And those of you who have children, stepchildren, or all the other ways you've been a father in your life. And we know that you have always done the best you could. And we honor your commitment to always expand as that parent, that strong, supportive person in your life. And we acknowledge that paternal instinct in each of us, right? that masculine principle that we all are, that we all have, the yang energy that we can access at any time to use to support and uplift and protect and lift up those that we love. So we honor the fathers that we had and the paternal father figures, the fathers that you are, and that masculine energy in all of us. Happy Father's Day. And it's also the celebration of Juneteenth. It is now a federal holiday in the United States, commemorating the emancipation of the enslaved African Americans. And it marks the anniversary of the announcement of General Order Number 3 by Union Army General Gordon Granger on June 19th, 1865, proclaiming freedom for enslaved people in Texas. And this was recognized in 2021 as a federal holiday by President Joe Biden. Juneteenth, National Independence Day. It really is, I guess for me, America's second Independence Day. And we're always moving towards this greater and greater expression of the realization that we are one. We're one family, one life, one human race, but we're not the same. We're unique and wonderful individual expressions of the one divine source. And we should not rest until we all, every race, every color, every gender, every religion, every one is recognized for the divine expression that they are. And we shouldn't rest until we are all, I mean, it's a wonderful thing in this country to move towards it, but in the world until every person is free. As we are free in the spirit of God, we are free in the world of Caesar, the world of effects, the world that we live in right here and now. So keeping in mind the celebration of fathers, this masculine energy, the celebration of freedom, we look into how our bodies and the subconscious mind might be holding on to some of the limiting thoughts and experiences, not only of our personal past, but that collective human race, the collective past, and how we can always overcome any past trauma, any limiting belief by embracing, kind of a unique concept sometimes, embracing the trauma, embracing the beliefs, the feelings or emotions that are there, and bringing them into that light of wholeness, integrating spirit, mind, and body. We always go back to that. The body is that one thing in this world which is completely and intimately ours. And rather than engaging in that spirituality that denies the body, that denies the effects in the world, we embrace, we believe we can move closer to that experience of oneness and wholeness right here and now by fully engaging in the body and our body of affairs with our unique and creative mind and our unique individuality. In Hinduism, this is called the tantric approach. It is embracing all of who we are. Our bodies are a magnificent conduit between God and our, universal consciousness and our individualized consciousness. We should celebrate this body all the time and the way it allows us to experience this world, to experience personal love, to experience personal shared pain or grief. And we have to remember that all bodies are good bodies. All bodies are unique bodies and different bodies. All bodies are not meant to conform to an idea or a particular ideal. You know, we see that so much, especially in our society, but we are meant to be as individualized as our creative minds are. Our bodies are meant to be that unique, creative, and individual. The body offers us this direct and clear path to our divine experience if we allow it. By loving the body and using it to connect that mind and spirit and heart, listening to its wisdom, we celebrate its magnificence. And we can awaken using the body to this everyday wonder and live our lives enlightened. So the whole point of going through this is to realize that sometimes, you know, unprocessed, unhealed emotions hide in our body. We kind of know this now through psychology. And over time, this can cause these problems ranging from headaches and anxiety and fatigue. And from the example I talked about earlier, that the skin cancer, you know, that subliminal message that, oh, I'm going to get skin cancer. I'm going to get skin cancer. I'm going to get skin cancer. I've forgotten that I sent those subliminal messages to my body. So we can explore some of the things that we're doing. The body is more than just this biochemical machine. It is unique. It is creative. It is responsive. And when we integrate all of this, we engage with our bodies in this richer, more meaningful way. It opens a door to resolve what's unhealed. And we live enlightened in everyday wonder all the time. So we know that we have these creative minds, right? And sometimes we talk about that almost all the time. It's nice that we threw the body in. Now we'll talk about the body. And we have wonderfully responsive bodies, but we also have wonderfully creative bodies and responsive minds. You know, we don't think of it that way often, or I don't. And the two are always acting in this reciprocal dance. We often focus in our spiritual practices on this idea of this top-down causation. You know, we connect with spirit and influence the mind, and use the mind to affect the body. And of course, that's beautiful and wonderful. But sometimes we forget that the body is responding to everything that we do with our minds, including what we have suppressed, or these past emotions, or this past experience of trauma. And, you know, sometimes we forget that physical experience in the body can create unhealthy or undesired effects in the mind. You know, like in this bottom-up fashion, we may not even notice that when we have a headache, we can't enjoy a lot of the things that are happening right around us. You know, the presence of a grandchild or something going on, because we may not even notice that we have this subtle headache going on unless we're paying attention. When we have an ailment in the body, we can't stay present in love or peace or joy sometimes, because it causes that snowball effect of negative thoughts about everything that's going on. So we interrupt the cycles of pain or trauma, both personally and collectively, by what else but integrating spirit, mind, and body. So our bodies can hear us. They can hear us. Isn't that funny? I wrote that down. It was like, oh yeah, my body is listening to me all the time. Ernest Holmes said that the intelligence in the physical body is a subconscious intelligence. It works creatively, but within certain fixed limitations. It's like a person sent on an errand and told what to do, but only knowing to do what they are told. The body is listening. So they're the perfect example of the creative power of the mind, you know, individually and collectively. Many of us have had that experience of a healing in our body, because we've connected with spirit, because we've really focused on that positive, powerful presence within us to heal. And many of us, like the story of my experience with cancer, have experienced how the subconscious mind affects the body in limiting or harmful ways. Our bodies are on automatic. I mean, we don't tell our bodies to breathe, to regulate our blood pressure, to, you know, do a lot of things. And yet they're also creative, following the instructions that we give them in our thoughts. So we should be careful. Just let's be careful what we're giving, what instructions we're giving to the body. Our bodies will store feelings, emotions, and thoughts that we are trying to push down. Think about it this way. When we even use that imagery, push down, where are we pushing down? Where are we suppressing? Where are we hiding? In our body. We're pushing it sort of out of our mind into our body. And that, we know, is detrimental. It's not inviting wholeness. Personal, societal, ancestral trauma can be stored in our bodies, and ignoring them. Sometimes we use that spiritual bypass to gloss over the experience rather than healing it. You know, that spiritual bypass. I'm fine. I'm good. It's all good. I've worked on that. You know, it's like, stuff. Oh, I'm going up here. Oh, you know, and it's still in our bodies. So we have to engage in finding the trauma sometimes, because as creative as we are, when we have hidden something, just as simple as the getting a cancer from the sun, when we have hidden them, we've just completely forgot about them. So diving into this bodily felt experiences of pain, sorrow, fear, trauma, while it can be terrifying, it's also the way, the path to wholeness that we forget sometimes. We forget to go down that path. It's understandably tempting to, you know, push them away, push the feelings away, or do you guys relate to this? The complicated mental gymnastics that we do to avoid processing the feelings. It's like we just kind of go around in circles, you know, rather than just saying, all right, there's pain, there's sorrow, there's sadness, there's anger, there's fear. I am big enough to encompass these. I am big enough to encompass these. It's important to remember that they're feelings, not thinkings. I love whoever put together, you know, the notes on this talk. They're feelings, not thinkings. We feel our experiences. And while we may use our minds to process them, our bodies hold on, you know, to these feelings in different ways. And they hold the imprints until we permit them to be felt and released. Sometimes that's all they need. Who is it? Mickey Singer talks about this in his book, Untethered Soul, just how from birth we're kind of barraged with, you know, feelings or experiences that when they hit us as young children, we let them fly through us. Something bad can happen and we're crying, and then we see a lollipop and we're like, whoa, look at that, you know, a butterfly, whoa, you know. But as we get older, we let them get stuck, you know, we let them get kind of stuck in our bodies because we don't want to feel it. A little child will cry their eyeballs out, over something. And then, like I said, see the butterfly or see a rainbow and be so happy. Whereas we won't cry, right? We won't say how fearful we are. We won't say how anxious this is making me. And so then we can't enjoy the butterfly or the rainbow that's popping out because we're too busy contracting. By learning to be present with what is, however uncomfortable it is, and listening to the body's signals, we can grow out of past trials and traumas. And as always, healing happens through love. Healing happens through love. Healing and releasing old or stuck emotions and sensations may not happen overnight. Sometimes we're tempted to think, I'm working on this healing, I'm healed. I've done the work. It took me this long and now I'm healed. But it's like the lotus. It's like the layers of the onion, it's like another layer and another layer and another layer. And if we are open and receptive to that is such a beautiful feeling, to have another realization of healing and forgiveness and love, but to think again, it's a thought that says, I'm done. I've done this work. I'm finished. That's a thought. But when we stay in tune and in touch with the body, it may guide us to another layer, another level, another realization. It's not necessarily linear or binary. There's that whole spectrum of health, mental and physical health. And the path through healing means addressing anything and everything that comes up. And then that idea of collective trauma, that's imparted by centuries of racism, racial bias, oppression, that leaves a mark on all of us, although obviously some are more personally affected. And I know that Juneteenth is very specific to the US, but across the world, people of color have experienced deep ancestral and personal trauma from which they deserve liberation. Women still, in this day and age, elderly, the LGBTQ community, have experienced personal and collective trauma and prejudice. By healing our personal experiences, we can then really be guided and directed to begin to heal that collective grief and really correct the oppressive systems that exist in the world that we're seeing today. So we can't heal what we can't see. We can't heal what we refuse to look at. Make sense? So we may have this unhealed trauma stuck in our bodies. And one of the best ways to address this is, for me, this tantric approach, this idea of noticing the sensations in the body, noticing subtle aches or pains, noticing sluggishness or a loss of vitality, numbness, noticing the headaches, whatever it is. Sometimes saying it out loud means we're identifying that block to our health right now in the moment. But denying it means we can't really enter into a wholeness. So for me, if we can say it and sense it, sometimes I find myself getting really angry and annoyed with my son, who's 19. So some people say, it's understandable. But to me, it's out of proportion. I'm like, I just stop in mid-sentence and I'm like, okay, I'm really annoyed. And he's like, yeah, I can tell, And I'm like, let me think. And it'll be about, 3 or 4 things earlier, that I haven't mentioned, I haven't said, I haven't dealt with. And now it's a snowball effect. So the more we notice, the more we're able to heal immediately, right? Bessel van der Kolk said, mindfulness not only makes it possible to survey our internal landscape with compassion and curiosity, but it can also actively steer us in the right direction for self-care. So we notice, we're mindful, we say it out loud, we identify it. And then if we can at that moment or later, sit in that meditative mode. Take the moment to connect to spirit, to God's infinite being that is everywhere present all at once. And right now, right here, we bring it back in. And we invite the pain, the anger, the frustration, the sorrow, the grief, we invite it in. We invite it to sit with us like we would invite an old friend to tea. We just rest with it. We just sit with it for those moments. And in that moment, there may be overwhelm. That's okay, right? Because we've invited it. That's okay that that's happening. We invite the overwhelm if that's what's showing up. We invite it. And just like you would that old friend, say, hey, I recognize you. I know who you are. You've been with me a long time. And here we are together. And in that moment, we recognize that we are big enough in that space, in that moment, to embrace this pain or this fear or this trauma or this grief. We can ask it, what do you want to tell me now? Not what you told me last week or last month or 10 years ago. What do you need to talk to me about now? What do you want to say to me now? And we're big enough to be still and listen. We're big enough to embrace the pain, the grief. We recognize that we're spirit, and we're bigger, so much bigger than any trauma, than any pain or fear. And we hold its hand like you would an old friend at tea. You just take it by the hand and surround this with love, this event with love. And we can learn something wonderful from it. We can just be with that sensation, that anxiety, and resist fully that temptation to push it away, deal with it later, pretend that we've already dealt with it, because it wouldn't be showing up if we already dealt with it. Be present with it, but not with the intention. This is very tantric. This is very powerful, not with the intention, the underlying intention of making it go away, right? Just with the intention of loving it. And if it needs to show up again, we say, that's okay. I'm here. I am love. I am big enough to love you again. Today, tomorrow, whenever you show up. So we're present with it without the intention of pushing it away. Instead, having the intention to learn, to embrace, and to become whole, right? To become whole with it. There is something it wants to tell us. And now we are making that intention to listen to our bodies. from our spirit self. And let's experience another level of integration, integrating spirit, mind, and body, feeling wholeness and oneness with whatever is showing up.